Good afternoon and welcome to Thursdays with AARP Wisconsin. You might have noticed that I am not Amber Miller, your typical host, but I am her partner, usually behind the scenes working in production. Amber is busy today working on a Milwaukee Wellness Symposium, so she's otherwise occupied. And so I'm filling in to be our guest host for this week. Before we get started on the program, I just wanted to mention a few things. For information about volunteer opportunities, for voting, any information of the special events that we have going on, I invite you to visit the aarp.org /WI website. And this is the state website for the Wisconsin State Office. You'll find all the pertinent information, updated information on our small dollar big impact grants or anything else you might want. So feel free to visit that site for that information. Also, one of the things we want to really bring to your attention as we are coming into voting season, especially as we're coming up on primaries here in Wisconsin, there are ways to stay informed. And so I'll invite you to text. One of the ways you can do this, if you're comfortable by texting, is on your phone, text WI votes, that's WIVOTES, to 22777, WI votes to 22777. And that'll give you a link to all the updated information that you need on how to vote, the best ways to vote absentee, all of that great information. And then also along the way, if you're more comfortable in using the computer, you can visit aarp.org/WI votes, and that'll take you to the exact same information there. So 2 ways to stay on top of all the latest information for how to safely vote in Wisconsin and to make sure your vote counts. You can text WI votes to 22777, or you can visit aarp.org/WI votes. We are always looking for great volunteers here with the Wisconsin State Office, and there's opportunities for public speaking, there's opportunities for special events in some of our sites, or to present. And so if you have an interest and you want to check this out, we encourage you to visit aarp.org/I want to volunteer. That's aarp.org/I want, WANT, numeral 2, volunteer. And that'll take you to a form you can fill out to ask you questions about what are the things that you like to do. And that'll be generated and delivered to our state office staff, where we'll be in touch with you and follow up on opportunities that we have. If you also wanted to just visit our main website, you can find the voter information there as well at aarp.org/WI. So right now, let's get ready for our guest. This coming up next week is the first full week in August every year is National Farmers Market Week. And this is really a chance to celebrate all that farmers markets bring to our communities. And when in a past life, I was a local downtown director in a community in Orville, and I started our local farmers market. And I always took this week as an opportunity to do some special programming to bring to that. And one of the highlights was actually being this far into the season was a salsa competition that we'd host among our vendors and residents. But we do have a special guest here today just to talk to us a little bit about the importance of farmers markets to our communities, the importance of getting to know your farmers, the importance of local food systems, and ways that we can celebrate and why we want to celebrate Farmers Markets Week. So I invite Dr. Edna Ely-Ledesma to come and join us. You might recognize her. She's a repeat guest here, and already twice this year. She was here earlier this year in speaking about the importance of agriculture. And now, so welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here. And thank you to the AARP community for welcoming me back.
You're quite welcome. So Dr. Eli Ledesma, you are based here in Madison at UW-Madison. And so you just want to share a little bit about yourself for those who might not have caught you the last time?
Yes, so I'm a professor at UW-Madison in the Department of Planning and Landscape Architecture. And my background is in architecture, urban design, and urban planning. And within my work at the university, I run and operate a lab, the Kaufman Lab, for the study and design of food systems and marketplaces. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but primary focus of our work is really to elevate and celebrate what markets do in terms of being sort of civic centers and enclaves for community development in our cities. We work across the nation with a lot of different communities. I actually grew up in South Texas on the U.S.-Mexico border, so a lot of my work is in Texas and California, but in Wisconsin, we're operating very closely with the Wisconsin Farmers Market Association on a number of different partnerships. And so we're very connected with trying to do research that is applied and directly showing the impact of what farmers markets bring to our community.
Excellent. And, I know that from, my study of community building and just social interaction. I mean, markets are not something new that is a recent thing. I mean, they go back to ancient cultures, and it was a way for people to gather and share goods and services. And so, I just love just being able to gather socially at the markets. They're always a perfect opportunity for that.
They are. And I always tell people I feel very lucky that my job really centers around being in these kinds of environments. I mean, they really are sort of the foundation of civilization and that social and economic exchange, right? What's the balance between the two? Because it's not just one or the other. But markets really are an important asset that have sort of seen sort of a pendulum-like evolution in our communities in terms of acceptance and in terms of support. But I think we're at a really critical junction right now, sort of being in sort of that sort of hopefully the outer wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, in seeing what has been the benefit of markets to our society. We think about public health benefits. We think about the need to connect, right? How isolation was so detrimental to our mental and our physical health. And yet we have these kinds of environments in farmers markets that bring people together and can serve as a way to support the well-being of our community. And in addition to that, support our farmers. And that's one thing we want to talk about today.
Yeah, excellent. I know before we went on air, you and I were just chatting a little bit about just the importance of people understanding the seasonality of food too. It's easy in a city like Madison or most places that have a supermarket, a grocery store, to just get accustomed to being able to get whatever you want when you want it. But I think it's vitally important for people to understand that things grow in seasons, and there's a reason for that, and it's a great opportunity to match up your eating habits with seasonal fruits and vegetables. So
and the challenges of geography, right? Like growing up in Texas and being in California often too. It's we're very lucky that we could grow a lot of things year round, but in Wisconsin we have to be very intentional because we have a very finite window of opportunity to grow those nutrients and those things that are going to keep us healthy. So learning to respond to what our earth, what our ground is allowing us to do is really important.
Excellent. So now, the reason that we've asked you to come here is just talk a little bit about, if you can talk a little bit about National Farmers Market Week.
Absolutely. So for those of you that may not be familiar, National Farmers Market Week is a movement that began 23 years ago by the USDA in 1999. And it was really established as a way to celebrate annually and highlight the significant role that farmers markets play in our food system. I'll mention that on the slides that you see here today, a very important partner to Farmers Market is the Farmers Market Coalition. They are a nonprofit organization whose primary role is really to advocate in terms of making sure that there is political power in supporting agricultural movements, farmers market managers, and sort of the whole ecosystem that surrounds local food. We within Farm to Fact at the University of Wisconsin in our Kaufman lab, what we do as a research team is work in partnership with organizations such as Farmers Market Coalition and others across the U.S. to make sure that markets are empowered to do the kind of work that they need to be sustainable. And so within the sort of the objectives of National Farmers Market Week, which will take place next week, this year, there are sort of three key messages that the Farmers Market Coalition is interested in making sure that we are resonating that across membership and across the national arena. And one is really recognizing that farmers markets don't just happen, right? There's a whole infrastructure behind the development and the support of a market that might be sort of through human capacity, right? The managing, the communities that come together, the farmers that have to set up at the market that are growing seasonally to make sure they're able to offer those products. And ultimately, the goal of all of these operations is that they are able to then get more direct to consumer products, right? We're interested in making sure that we get healthy food in front of our communities. And in addition to that, so there's sort of the health benefits of a market. We also want to make sure that we understand that farmers markets are here to serve as community hubs. That's a really important message, as I was just mentioning, because what we have seen is in our communities is this lack of connection. And markets have always been able to offer us the opportunity to find community. You don't have to go to a market to spend money. You can go to a market simply to people watch, simply to connect, to meet your friends, to walk around. And that's really important that we don't lose those opportunities. And markets have continued to offer that to our communities. And the other thing is that the culture of farmers markets is changing. And what we mean by that is that we are living in a very challenging time where we're experiencing a global pandemic. We're in an economic crisis. The idea that everybody is constantly asking, what is the cost of fuel, the cost of gas? Darren and I were just talking about this, and so making sure that we understand that those larger sort of global conditions, those systems have local implications. So if we go and shop at a big box store, we have no idea how far that apple, that tomato actually traveled to get to us. And the cost of fuel to get that to that grocery store will have a direct impact on your pocket. And so what we advocate is making sure that communities recognize that shopping local, most of that money, the majority of that money will go directly to the farmer, to the local community who will shop local, versus to that big box corporation who takes their profits to their corporation and not to the community. And so making sure that we support markets is a way of supporting our local economy.
Great. Those are great things to remember. I know that, your first point about markets don't just happen. Again, my experience in starting a farmer's market, I didn't realize how hard it was. And then, just dealing with the week to week as new vendors come in and out, and there's a whole culture that develops in amongst the vendors there, and just understanding the ebbs and flows of that throughout the season is it's a task unto itself. So I have all the utmost respect, not only for the growers and the producers, but also for the market managers that are out there and make these things happen week in and week out.
There are so much politics around the infrastructure of markets. And I think one thing that a lot of people don't know and don't understand is that every market is unique. And so that operation might be that a market is non-for-profit, maybe that a market is run by a local government agency like a public health department. It could be a for-profit market. But based on the sort of the nuances of the circumstances, there's implications to the capacity of the individual running the show. Sometimes there is no manager. We work with markets where in more rural environments where it's completely volunteer based and it's very organic. But at the same time, then there's challenges in the political will to make decisions because no one is sort of at the forefront of that. So pluses and minuses.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other point about it being a hub, a social hub, that's vitally important. We saw that during COVID, but AARP's own research has shown that the effects of social isolation, the negative effects, could be the equivalent of smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. So it has some detrimental physical aspects when you're socially isolated. And so just being able to gather amongst your friends, if you pick up something, great, but just being there in that social atmosphere is vitally important. So thanks for those great reminders. Now, I know, you work with Farms to Facts, and love to know a little bit more about Farm to Facts and how it connects to farmers markets.
Yeah, so within our work, what we do is we run a program that I like to call a farmers market census. There are a number of different typologies or organizations that do this kind of work, but we are unique in that we are housed within a public university. So we're an academic research center that works with farmers markets to support them in their capacity building by helping them, providing them the tools to collect information about how their market operates, what is sort of the composition of their vendors, how, and then the kind of pool, the consumer base that is brought into the market. And so really our mission within Farm to Facts is to really amplify the voice of the market manager through the data collection toolkit. And we provide through this sort of online data collection toolkit, they have the ability to analyze in real time their performance. And so we actually began this through a USDA grant back in 2014 in partnership with the Farmers Market Coalition and USDA. And a lot of the work really came out of the needs that market managers were saying, in that, we struggle to go to our local municipality and say, we matter, right? Because at the end of the day, the city council, the local boards, they're all going to want to see and measure impact. So we began to use USDA research and metrics to see what are the things that we need to be able to document. So if we go to the next slide, I just want to mention a little bit about the scope of what we do. Is we work primarily as a subcontract with various USDA grants. This past year, we contracted with an organization in the Sonoma-Marin Valley in California, working with 17 markets there with a farmers market promotion program grant through USDA. We also are under FMPP with the Wisconsin Farmers Market Association. We also have a smaller local food promotion grant with Central Wisconsin. We're working with FoodWise, which is a component of UW Extension, to really increase access to EBT and food share at the farmers markets, which is something that when EBT is essentially food assistance for low-income households. And so being able to make sure that people of low economic means have access to healthy foods at their markets, and not just what is offered at the grocery store or at corner stores. And so the primary sort of scope of what we do sort of operates around three areas. We're interested in looking at the social benefits, the economic benefits, and the environmental benefits of the markets. And each of these different contexts have nuances. We are working in states where the sort of the critical infrastructure is really coming from the nonprofit world. That's like in California. We're working in the state of Michigan, where they have a very robust statewide coalition of farmers market, the Michigan Farmers Market Association. And then places like Wisconsin, where we have a little bit of both, but also really strong roots to our academic institutions such as Extension. And so really trying to understand how to increase capacity is sort of the common thread of our research, is that markets bring a lot to the table, but market managers cannot do it alone. And so how do we make sure that we can measure the work that they do, measure the impact that the farmers are doing by bringing food to their local community?
Great. And can you share with us some examples of how Farm to Facts measures that impact?
Yeah, so if we look at the next slide, into thinking about social metrics, what do we mean by that? So, I mentioned earlier that a market shouldn't be only a place for you to bring your money and shop for something. It's a place where you also want to make sure you're connecting with other individuals. So we're very interested in 4 times a season, we ask farmers market managers to conduct a customer survey. Within that customer survey, they will look at, for example, if an individual is this the first time that they're shopping at a market or not. That's important because what we're interested in seeing is, are people returning? Sometimes, and that's really important, we want to make sure that this is actually bringing people back. But we see a lot of times in the summer, at least in places where it might be like a year-round market, you have a lot of first-time customers, which means you're getting a lot of people who may be coming in from out of town, they're on vacation. Markets actually become part of the local tourism of a city, which is great. Depending on their location also matters. So we're interested in looking at where people are traveling from. So we collect data around their zip code. So we're saying, okay, well, then we're doing some geospatial analysis to see, hey, are people actually coming from areas or zip codes or parts of our city that actually have a demonstrated need for increased food access, such as issues of food insecurity, low income populations. And how often people come back, that's really important. A lot of times people say, I come every Saturday, or I come, I only come twice a year because this is just the thing I do for fun. Those are important things for the market managers to document. We go to the next slide. One of the things that I would say is critical to the decision makers is, what is the economic impact? For me, I care about the social a lot because I think we should care about human connection first before we measure, sort of the dollar value. But at the end of the day, the decision makers want to know, what are we bringing to our local economy? So thinking about reporting anonymously, what are the annual sales of the vendors, the type of products that are being sold? Are the markets selling USDA organic products, etc., and the spending patterns of the customers too. So we're seeing it from both sides. And then, I can wait and talk about the last slide in a second.
All right. And so then I get, the last question. This has been a lot of information, and as we're, coming up on National Farmers Market Week next week, so this is a great opportunity to just be prepared for that and encourage people to go out and visit their local market. Maybe they're the first time visitor that they do, but also maybe it's a repeat visitation. But whatever you are, to appreciate it. But if someone wanted to reach you, if they wanted to learn more, how do they do that?
Yeah, so they can reach me directly at my email, which is eledesma@wisc.edu. We also, they can go to our website, farmstofacts.org. We also have an email for the organization, info@farmtofacts.org. And in general, we're interested in working with, sometimes we get emails from people who say, hey, I'm interested in starting a market in my community. What do we do? And we try to guide them in any direction that is feasible for us. A lot of times other markets also come to us and say, hey, we are interested in increasing capacity. Will you partner on a grant for XYZ? Somehow I was muted. Am I good?
Yeah, you're good now. You're back. Yeah.
If you have any photos or things you want to share from your farmers market, you're free to connect with us and say, hey, I love to highlight my local market. And we have a very robust social media team that works with us promoting local farmers markets across the country, specifically in the state of Wisconsin. So please stay in touch. We are all about supporting local foods and food systems and farmers markets in all dimensions.
Great. Dr. Eli Ledesma, it's always a pleasure to have you on here as a guest. We really appreciate that. And thank you for helping.
I can't hear you now. I don't know what happened.
Oh, have I gone out?
Audio.
I am, see if I've lost audio here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, are you able to hear me now? Okay, so it might just be a problem with on Dr. Ledesma's end, but thank you very much for being a guest here and just sharing a little bit about the importance of farmers markets. And we look forward to your next visit and hope you be available then. And so now we just have our final wrap-up notes for things as we prep here. And so always love to conclude with just sharing some upcoming events that you might have. So if you're looking for some movies for grown-up screenings, this coming Friday, we have Jonathan Scott's Power Trip. Next Wednesday is part of our Fraud Watch Wednesday series, and it's Finding Support. Thursday is an in-person event in Dave and Buster's in Wauwatosa, and it's AARP Conversations, a family caregiving event. Then also next Thursday is another Movies for Grown-Up screening of 13 Lives. And Friday, August the 12th, is another in-person event. It's Supercharge Your Job Search, Networking, and Interview Skills, and that's in the Milwaukee area. You'll find information on all of these and the ability to sign up on our website that's listed below at aarp.org/WI, or you can call our call center to register at 877-926-8300, 877-926-8300. Coming up on August the 16th is Small Dollar Big Impact Grant. This is our monthly award that we provide for communities across the state of Wisconsin for projects that they would like to try and do that would have impact in their communities. So to visit that one, it is aarp.org/WISDBI, and that is aarp.org/WISDBI for Small Dollar Big Impact. And then lastly, looking ahead to next week, it is our monthly advocacy chat. We'll be joined by a member of our advocacy team that will share about topics that are important, what they're working on, what you need to know in voting, anything that is topical and important to our residents who are 50 plus. So we encourage you to join us next week where we'll hear from AARP's advocacy team there. Again, it's at noon, Thursday, August the 11th. So until then, Amber will be back in the host seat. But thank you for joining me here today to talk about the importance of farmers markets and helping us in preparation to celebrate National Farmers Markets Week. Take care and have a great week.